Now it's time to talk about the ITTOs. Let's look at the inputs. There are 4 inputs. First, project management plan. In this, there is only one, that's a risk management plan. The risk management plan will contain the roles and responsibilities of the team, budget for risk, scheduled activities to manage risk categories, preferably in the form of risk breakdown structure, stakeholders risk threshold, definition of risk probability and impact. This information is valuable while performing qualitative risk analysis. The next one is project documents. There are 3 project documents that are used. First, assumption log. Assumptions and constraints recorded in business case, project charter may be the first-hand information to individual and project risk. Reviewing and analyzing the assumption log may help to identify new risk. Risk register. Every identified risk will be assessed in perform qualitative risk analysis for prioritizing, risk response, and monitor risk. Stakeholder register. You can find details of the stakeholders who may be nominated as risk owners. The third input is enterprise environmental factors. Industry studies of similar projects, published material including commercial risk database or checklist, organizational risk appetites, tolerance, and thresholds help you to identify the impact of a risk, rank risk, and determine which risk response strategies to use. The fourth and the final input is organizational process asserts. Here we are talking about information from similar completed projects or phase. Now tools and techniques. First, expert judgment. For this process, the experts can be from previous similar projects, qualitative risk analyst, risk workshop, or interview experts. The next one is data gathering. In data gathering, it's interview. In this process, structured or semi-structured interviews can be used to assess the probability and impact of individual project risk as well as other factors. There are 3 in data analysis. The first one is a risk data quality assessment. The assessment of risk data in terms of accuracy and reliability for quality risk analysis is known as risk data quality assessment. Before you can use this risk information collected on the project, you must analyze the precision of the data. You assess this accuracy and reliability of the data and determine if the risk is valid and whether more research is needed to understand the risk. As we already understood, a low quality data may not be so helpful to do qualitative risk analysis. If data quality is unacceptable, you need to gather better data. The quality of risk data may be assessed using questionnaire. The project stakeholders share their perception of various characteristics of data such as completeness, objectivity, relevancy, and timeliness. Overall quality score of data given through weighted average. The next is risk probability and impact assessment. Risk probability and impact assessment is all about identifying the probability of a risk would occur, and if it occurs, what will be the impact in the project. This is part of qualitative risk assessment. Risk qualitative assessment is based on individual's perception. So it's more subjective. So it's best to fix a standard way of measuring it. Let's understand risk probability really quickly. Probability is the likelihood of a risk to occur. Let's look at this example. Here, let's look at the second column. The risk probability can be depicted as statistically from 0 to 1 or in percentage. If it's 0.5, then it's 50% chance that the risk will occur on the project. If it's 0.8, obviously it's 80% chance. The likelihood of a risk occurrence can be assessed by interview or meeting with the project stakeholders. Based on their familiarity, knowledge, and past experience, they can shoot out a number on the probability. For this meeting or interview, project team members and knowledgeable person external to the project are also can be included. As a project manager, you can find a way to arrive at a final number such as averaging or weighted averaging method, etc. Let's go back to the table. Let's focus on the cost column. In this project, any change will cost less than $100K. Then they are considered as very low risk, whereas anything between $1 million and $5 million are considered as high. Similarly, any change that has an impact of 1 week are considered as low, and anything over 6 months are considered as very high. Setting up these kind of standard way of measurement will remove the perception part and bring the data in. Don't forget, risk can be positive as well as negative. When it's positive, it's called opportunity. In our construction example, while preparing the project schedule, you might have considered rainfall data of last few years. In case of no rain, the project schedule can get speed up. This makes the project to get completed in advance. Probability and impact have to be assessed for each individual project risk. This standard definition should be part of risk management plan. Next, assessment of other risk parameters. First, overview. When prioritizing the project risk for further analysis, apart from probability and impact, the project team need to consider other characteristics of risk such as urgency. The urgency parameter indicates if the risk is likely to occur soon, then requiring the response to be implemented quickly, or if the risk requires a particularly long time to plan a response. A short period indicates high urgency. Proximity. How soon the risk will have impact on the project. A short period indicates high proximity. Dormancy. Not every risk will have immediate impact in the project. So, dormancy refers to the anticipated time between when the risk occurs and when its impact is felt on the project. A longer period indicates high dormancy. Manageability. How easily both the risk and impact can be managed by the risk owners in case if it occurs. When management is easy, the manageability is high. Controllability. The degree to which the risk owner is able to control the risk outcome or its impacts. Where the outcome can be easily controlled, then the controllability is high. Detectability. How easily the risk can be detected before it occurs. The easy to detect, the detectability is high. Connectivity. The extent to which the risk is related to other individual project risks. Where a risk connected to many other risks, the connectivity is high. Strategic impact. How potential the risk can have positive or negative impact on the organization's strategic goal. Where the risk has major effect on the strategic goal, strategic impact is high. Propinquity. The degree to which a risk is perceived by one or more stakeholders. Where a risk is perceived as very high significant, propinquity is high. The consideration of some of these characteristics can provide a more robust prioritization of risk than only assessing probability and impact. The next one is interpersonal and team skills. Facilitation. Facilitation improves the effectiveness of qualitative analysis of individual project risk. A skilled facilitator can help participants remain focused on the risk analysis task, follow the method associated with the techniques accurately, reach consensus on assessment of probability and impact, identify and overcome source of bias, and resolve any disagreement that may arise. The next one is risk categorization. To manage the risk efficiently and effectively, risk can be categorized by source or root cause of the risk, area of the risk affected, project phase, or any other useful category. These risk categories are defined in risk management plan. The categorization of risk is called as a risk breakdown structure. Remember, we don't call it as RBS because RBS refers to, yes, you are right, resource breakdown structure, not risk breakdown structure. This grouping helps to develop generic risk response plan to address group of related risks. When risks are grouped by root cause, addressing one root cause obviously will solve multiple risks. The next one is data representation. Here we have risk probability and impact matrix. On x-axis, it's the impact, and in y-axis, it's the probability. On left extreme, it's low impact and low probability. And as you move towards the center and upward direction, the numbers gets higher. Typically, the probability and impact gets multiplied and the result is placed on the table. For example, very high impact 0.8 and very high probability 0.9 are multiplied and put it as 0.72 in the table. Just remember, risk with the low probability and impact may be included within the risk register as a part of watch list for further monitoring. There may be questions on this in the sample examination. Next, hierarchical chart, where risks have been categorized using more than one parameters. The probability and impact matrix or other graphical representations can be used to decide the category. For example, a bubble chart displays 3 dimensions of data where each risk is plotted as disk, and the 3 parameters are represented by x-axis, y-axis, and the bubble size. The next one is meetings. Similar to risk identification, a specialized meeting can be dedicated to perform qualitative risk analysis. The goal of this meeting includes the review of previously identified risks, assessment of probability and impact, categorization, and prioritization. A risk owner who was responsible for the risk response will be identified and allocated to each individual project risk. The meeting may start by reviewing and confirming the probability and impact scale to be used for these analysis. It might happen that during the qualitative risk analysis, there may be new risks are identified. Those risks must be recorded for further analysis. Use of a skilled facilitator will increase the efficiency of these meetings. Alright, that's about tools and techniques. Let's talk about the outputs. First, project documents updates. There are 5 in it. First, assumption log. Performed qualitative risk analysis may bring new assumptions and constraints into the surface. Existing assumptions and constraints may be revisited and updated. Next, issue log. The issue log should be updated as new issues are captured and current issues are changed. Risk register. The risk register is updated with new information generated during performed qualitative risk analysis process. Those assessments may include the probability impact of the risk, priority level, risk owner, risk urgency information, risk response plan, risk categorization, and watch list which needs further analysis. Watch list which contains low priority risk may also be updated. Also keep an eye on watch list because anytime low priority risk may become a risk that needs immediate attention. The potential risks will be moved forward into quantitative risk analysis. You may have to update the prioritized risk, their probability, and their impacts. Also, you may have to update risk grouping by categories. Let's talk about risk reports. The risk report is updated with the list of risks that have highest probability and impact and prioritization list. This qualitative risk analysis can be used to determine whether to proceed to the perform quantitative risk analysis or plan a risk response process. This is completely depending on the need of the project and the performing organization. Compare this risk with others in the project. Determine whether the project should be continued or terminated. All right, that wraps up the ITTOs. Let's move to the next process.